And we can also use color to tell a story. So let me actually tell you a story about using color to tell a story. So I made this graph as part of my evaluation. It was like the grandmother graph. I mean, it had everything that we did in this evaluation summarized right here, and this is what we put in the executive summary. And then in my usual process was to PDF that report and email it to my client. You probably do the same thing. And her usual process was to print it out on her office printer, which was black and white because she works for the government. And then she made copies and faxes of that report to send it to all the people who needed to read it. A couple of weeks later, we're gathering to talk about this in person, and before we start, I'm walking around the room to introduce myself to people, and this one guy says, "I'm really looking forward to your talk because I didn't read your report." And I'm like, what a jerk, why would you say that? What I actually said was you must be a really busy guy. And he said, nope, that's not it. And then he got out his report, and this is what it looked like to him. Oh my God. Who would have thought the red would have been the thing that disappeared, you know? Yeah. So I learned a couple of amazing things. I learned that visuals are very powerful. Everything that I had put in this graph, I had summarized in narrative around the graph, on the same page, right around the graph. And he wasn't going to read it because the visual didn't pull him in. And he is not Generation Y. He was like an old guy. That is just the reality of today. That's how important visuals are. That is how important visuals are. But I also learned I needed to be more careful about my color choices. I started doing some research into this, and I found the research saying that this Rainbow Excel default color scheme actually produces confusion in people because they expect a meaning change when there's a color change, and they spend their mental energy trying to understand the color change when actually it's usually not anything intentional. It's just what Excel did, and we didn't think very much about it. So that research says that a better option is when we use grayscale plus an action color to bring attention to some point in our data set. This is when the academics in the crowd get really worked up because it means we have a point when we communicate. And people who are academically trained are trained to not have a point. You just put the data out there and let the audience come to their own interpretation. But that is not what evaluation is, and that is not what our clients pay us to do. They pay us to do the thinking and to give them the answer.